Good morning, good afternoon, and welcome back to our friendly tech help hour. I'm super glad you're here. It's your son in tech, Mackenzie, here with our friendly tech help hour. We've got a topic today that I think a lot of us feel a fair amount of confidence around until something goes sideways. We're going to be talking about texting, right? Specifically talking about texting apps, right? There's a lot of questions around the texting apps. What's the difference between WhatsApp and iMessage and Facebook Messenger, Telegram, Signal? Why do we need all these apps? We're going to address your burning questions. You may already even be using these, but by the time we're done, you're going to be an expert at using texting apps. So let's talk about a couple of the questions we are going to address today. Number one, what's the difference between a text message and using a messaging app? Super important that we understand that from the beginning. Secondly, which messaging is more private and secure between a text and using a messaging app? And of course, I want you to know this above any and everything else, how you can stay safe when you're using messaging apps. All right, are you ready? Let's get into it. Let's start at the very beginning. What's the difference between a regular text message on your phone versus a message that is sent using a messaging app? So, you know me, I love to give you a little bit of context and then just a little bit of understanding. So, let's talk about context. A text message is very similar to maybe sending someone a postcard, right? A personalized postcard using the regular mail. I'm sure we've all done this in our life. You send someone you know and care about a regular text using or a regular postcard using the regular mail service. It's addressed directly to them. It comes from you. And so you're going to put both of those things on the postcard. You're going to put your address as well as their address. And it's a direct connection. In the middle, though, you had your local postal service, right? That was how that communication channel worked. Well, a text message, it functions in a very similar way. You have to have the phone number, of course, of the person that you are looking to reach, right? You got to have their phone number, but then also you have to have a phone number yourself, right? So it's a connection, a direct connection between you two. Now, here's what's interesting is if you sent that postcard via the postal service, right? You're going to give it into the hands of the postal service. What might happen along the way? Somebody might take that postcard, read it themselves, especially if it's just a postcard like the one we see there, right? Where it's just open, right? Anyone can see it. It's not in an envelope. It has its postage attached to it directly, which meant anyone along the way could either read it or take it for themselves, right? They could make copies of it and still end up delivering it. So that's how a basic text message works. It's a direct connection between you and the person you're sending a text to, but in this case, you're going to use your phone provider. So we have some examples there that you can look at. Maybe you've got one of these companies. If you live somewhere besides the United States, certainly you're using either one of those large ones like Verizon or T-Mobile, or maybe you have another company that you use for your cell phone service. Now, those companies, they're the connection between you and the other person's phone, right? So it's a message directly between you two. Now, what's different, right, about a using a messaging app, the fundamentals are the same. It's a connection between you and another person. That part doesn't change, right? That's going to happen regardless. But what's different about using a messaging app, this is like rather than sending a postcard using, maybe your local postal service, instead, this is like using a private courier, right? Someone that you trust and sealing that information in an envelope, right? And sending it directly to that person. So in this instance, rather than using the company that, you know, you use for your cell phone, now we've got a intermediary or a company in between you. Another important thing to note, right? Well, let's just make sure we've got that key fact down, right? Here's that key part is that it's a private delivery service, right? You see how you see in the individual is hand delivering. They're getting a signature to make sure that this is the person that was supposed to receive that message, it's much more secure, right? That is the biggest difference between regular text and sending a text-based message using a messaging app is the security side of it, right? It's a more secure way. Another thing is the method. The text message that you send through your normal the messaging app that's built into your phone or the standard texting, that happens not through the internet, right? That happens through your cell phone signal. So if you have cell phone service, then you can send a text. However, with messaging apps, they use your mobile data or Wi-Fi to send the message. So that's one big difference. Now, something that can be confusing, and I hear this a lot. So, and I know you see that weird little icon on the screen there. I know I talked about everything else on the screen except this little guy right here. We're going to talk about that in just a second. And hold me to that. Don't let me forget. We need to go back to that. But one of the biggest confusing aspects of using a messaging app is you have multiple conversations going on with you and the same person in various different places. You can be texting them, you could have a message going with Facebook Messenger, you could be sharing things with them on Instagram or TikTok. So there's all these different messaging platforms being used at once, but it's the same thing between you and one other person. And that can get confusing. But intuitively, I know you know this, but I have to say it anyway because it's that important. Intuitively, you know that you and the person that you are trying to message using a messaging app, you have to both use that app for them to receive the message. I know that you know this intuitively, but it's important to remember because sometimes you'll go to use one of your messaging apps. We'll just use WhatsApp as an example. You go to use it, you go to send that person a message, and you can't find them in your contacts for WhatsApp. And you're like, well, now I know I have their number. Why can't I send them a message on WhatsApp? It's because they also have to have an account on that app. You both have to use the same app. Lock that in. That is super, super important. You can't just, that's one of the biggest differences between texting and using a messaging app is you have to both be using the app. Whereas with texting, you just send it and you know it's going to get delivered to their phone. Key difference. Really, really important. Again, I know you know that intuitively. I know you know that intuitively, but I just felt it was key that we talk about it. So that's the difference. That is the difference between sending a regular text message or what we call an SMS versus using a messaging app. The messaging app is going to be more secure and it is going to be sent over the internet, not using your cell phone signal. All right, we got that. Let's get back to that little icon we were talking about before, right? This little guy here that looks like a lock. What is this about? This is another very important distinction between a regular text message, right, and a message sent using a messaging app. And that little lock represents something you've probably heard and maybe never received any sort of explanation on, and that is something called encryption. Encryption. So, what is encryption? Why does it matter? Well, you'll recall one of the differences, right, is the security that is differences between texting and using a messaging app. One of those differences is the safety. It's more private. And encryption has to do with privacy. I'll show you an image and then we'll just walk our way through it. So, with sending any sort of information over the internet, obviously we can see it as we're typing it on our phones or whatever, if we're using our laptop, we see that we're typing in whatever language we speak and we just send it to that person and they receive it in the exact same format that we sent it, right? That's just how it works. But there's a lot of things that are happening between when you send it and when it is received by that person. So in our illustration with a text message, right, you're sending that signal. It's like giving someone a postcard. There's no envelope, right? A person could just grab it at any point, read it, and just send it on its way. But if you don't want people to be able to read your messages, then you probably don't want to use standard text messaging because standard text messages are not encrypted. They are just plain language that anyone along the way could intercept that message and read it. And so I'm sure you're familiar, especially if you're from an older generation, you remember the Watergate scandal, right? About tapping phones. So we know that tapping phones is possible, right? You can listen in on people's conversations. Well, something very similar is possible using text messages. Someone can intercept that you wouldn't know, and they could read that text message. So, how could you keep that information that you just want to share with a friend, even if it's just a picture, even if it's something silly, but you want to keep it private? That is where encryption comes in to save the day. And you would be surprised at just how simple this process is. So, let's break down this picture. We've got our image on the far left. Hello. That's it. Nothing private, nothing special, but we want to protect that so no one else can read it except the person that we're going to send it to. So when we use a messaging app, part of the process of sending and receiving messages has to do with this process of encryption. And here's how it works. Very simple. It's as if you send a person a message, you write it down, but before you write it down or before you send it to them, you scramble all the letters, or maybe you substitute some of the letters for symbols, and so it just looks random to them. But you know that the person you're sending it to has a cipher that would help them to understand it. They could take that same message and read it. It's almost like if you locked it up, they have the key to unlock it. They're able to de-scramble all that, and it looks like common sense. Okay, that is exactly it. Says hello. So that's what we see illustrated here. When you use a messaging app, you and the other person's phone have a key inside. And when you're setting it up, we'll talk through the process of how encryption works or how sending these messages works shortly. But essentially, there's a handshake that happens, right? You and the person are both connected. And when you send a message, there is an agreement. Hey, we're going to use this code so that when the message is being sent, it gets scrambled. So if someone tried to intercept it, it looks like pure nonsense to them. It's totally protected. And only your phone and that other person's phone has the ability to decipher that message to make it so that you could read it, so that it's plain language to you. Here's why that's super cool. That means that not even the messaging company has the ability to read your text. That's cool, right? That you can send something totally private. Now, there are limits to how this encryption works, right? That's not to say that every single messaging app has that level of encryption, but there are several that do. So, some examples. WhatsApp. It has what is called end-to-end encryption, as we just saw in the picture, right? As soon as you send that message, it gets scrambled into nonsense, and only the person you're sending it to, their phone has the key to unlock that nonsense and make it make sense, right? So that is how WhatsApp works. Another one, Telegram. If you've ever heard of the app called Telegram, it has an encryption system that is designed to do the exact same thing, but you have to use something called secret chat. You can't just send a standard message on Telegram and have that full level of encryption the way you'd have it on WhatsApp. You have to start what's called a secret chat. Um, Same thing is true of Facebook Messenger. It also has encryption, but you have to turn on the secret conversation mode. Um, those three are pretty secure. However, Signal, the app called Signal, is really, really good. It is extremely private. It doesn't store a single lick of data about you as the user or the person that you're sending that message to. So it is extremely, extremely private, and it is also encrypted. Now, for our Apple users, you've got something cool that the messaging that happens between two iPhones is also encrypted. So even though it's a regular text message, if it's from iPhone to iPhone, it is already encrypted. That is one extremely nice benefit of using an iPhone. But again, that is only if you and the person that you're sending a text to are both Apple users. And of course, you know it'll change color if the person isn't an Apple user. So now we understand the difference between what a regular text message is, an SMS text message, versus using a messaging app. Super important. We also know what encryption is, that added layer of security when you're sending these messages. If it's not between you, if you're an iPhone user, right, you can use your standard iMessage, is what they call the standard message. That is fully encrypted and secure. But in every other case, you will need to use a messaging app. All right, very good. We're making it make sense. That is always the goal. We're making it make sense. Let's take on the topic again that is always near and dear to my heart, right? Is the risks. I want you to be safe. So here are some of the risks. One of the biggest risks, we all know this, one of the biggest risks related to um, texting of any sorts is always some sort of scam, right? Just so many different kinds of scams. And I've seen this, I've seen it happen to people that I know and care about. In fact, text messaging scams was one of my biggest motivators for even starting this channel. It was because a family member of mine experienced this, and I thought this is really unfair. I don't like that people are deceiving people that I care about. And so I'm going to make sure that not just my parents, but everyone's parents are safe and secure when they're using their technology. Now, uh, of course, regular text messages, there's plenty of scams, but it can happen using messaging apps as well. So all this information applies both ways, right? Whether you're using a messaging app or if you're using standard text messages, you have to be aware of these scams, right? And it can happen. And so again, the objective is to keep you safe. So we'll go over three examples of some scams that will happen when you're using a messaging app. Number one, the Hey Mom scam, right? This one is really, really common because it plays on your emotions. And that's why it bothers me so much, is because the scammer knows that if your child was in danger, you would take action immediately. You try to get them safe and secure. So here's how it works. You get a message on a messaging app or via text that says, "Hey, mom, I lost my phone. You can just text me here." Right? I'm using another phone for now. I'll let you know when I have my number back. Just text me here. Almost every time that is going to be followed up by a request. They're going to ask for some help. I need to pay for something. Or maybe I need to send you a code from another number and I need you to pass it on to me. Usually, this is a scam. There is very rare exceptions. Rarely is it the case that your child would ever need to communicate with you in this way, where they say, "Hey, this is my new number," and then immediately, "Oh, by the way, can you send me something through Cash App, or can you send me this code?" That double check. Here's a tip that I think is really really useful for your family, right? And I encourage you, do this today if you don't already have it. Have a safe word, or even better, a safe phrase that only you and your family members know. That you don't tell anyone under any circumstances. In fact, you don't even write it down. It's just a phrase that you all know so that you can confirm that this really is indeed your child. So you could just ask them if you got one of these messages, okay, well, what's the family code? Right? Immediately the scammer's out of there. They don't want anything to do with that because they know the scam's going to fall apart. So that Hey Mom scam, the way to defeat it is to have a family code. And if you have another way of contacting your child, for example, if you're friends with them on Facebook or Instagram or TikTok, you can go to that channel and try to confirm with them as well. All right, here's another scam. This one happens a lot too. The delivery or the payment scam, right? You get a text message, an SMS, or on one of your messaging platforms, messaging apps, and it says, "Oh, we sent you a package. We know you're waiting on this delivery, and there's been an issue, so please go to this link to resolve it." Right? That we know you're waiting on a package from Amazon. We know you've got a package. Someone sent you something through the U.S. Postal Service. Oftentimes, that's how it's phrased. And I've seen this happen to people that live abroad as well. So if you live in another country, you're not automatically safe from these scams. It can happen with any delivery service. They'll say, "Oh, a person is trying to send you something but we need you to confirm your identity or we need some information from you. Go to this link to finish it, right? And the site will often look legitimate. And we've talked about multiple times, right? Double check that URL at the top of the web browser, right? You can even, a lot of times, if they send you this and you have the messaging app, you can look at the link and it'll tell you where it's going, right? Double check. It's not to say you could never receive this message from a company or from a postal service, but be very careful. It's almost always a way for them to get private information from you. So be super cautious. All right, last but not least that we're going to talk about today is the group chat trap. The group chat trap. And this happens via text message. It happens on messaging apps. I've seen this happen to people on Facebook Messenger an absolute insane number of times. So here's how it works. You get added to a group chat full of people you don't really know, and they're talking about, oh, I made this group because this company that I know is giving away something. They're giving away tickets. They're giving away money. They're always giving away something, and I added you to this group so that you could win, or their stock tips. This group, we share stock tips, and look how much money we've made with these tips. Or we have crypto inside information, right? All these things in these group chats, they're just designed to gather your information, right? They want you to reveal something about yourself. So those are three very real world risks associated with texting or using messaging apps. Please be super, super cautious. If you're ever unsure, please go to my website, getfriendly.help, and set up a one-on-one time and we can review them together, right? I will walk you through the process so you know exactly if it is a scam or if it's something legitimate. Usually we can do that in just a few minutes. But please don't just click on these links. Don't let these messaging apps be a trap for you because they can be very fun. And speaking of which, we're going to get into now some of the different apps, their benefits, and of course, maybe some of the risks. So we'll just throw this whole list up and I'll go through them one at a time. Number one, probably the most common, uh, is WhatsApp, right? Most everyone in the world uses WhatsApp. And I'll tell you this WhatsApp is probably the most internationally used app as well. So if you're a traveler, I highly, highly encourage you to use WhatsApp because it is very, very effective when you're traveling and all you have is a internet signal, right? Like if your hotel or your resort has Wi-Fi, or the city that you're traveling to has free public Wi-Fi, that's often the case in many countries, then you can keep in contact with people. You can also make phone calls or video calls through WhatsApp as well. You can even share your screen, which is pretty cool. So it's great for talking to friends. It's great for keeping up with people that you know that may live abroad, or maybe you live abroad and you want to keep up with people. WhatsApp is great. Like we talked about, it is encrypted, but it's also owned by Facebook. So you have to keep that in mind. You know, Facebook, a lot of their revenue comes from sharing data. That's not necessarily a bad thing. That's just how their model works. So they give us a lot of free things, but of course, that means they are also sharing some information. One thing that'll happen on WhatsApp to be aware of is that people will send you links and attachments. If you weren't expecting it, just don't click on anything, right? You can just delete it immediately. But besides that, I love WhatsApp. Totally, totally good app to use, but beware of random links and random attachments from numbers that you do not know. And speaking of that, I just need to pause for a second. Best practice for using your phone. Please lock this in. Save the numbers of the people that you know to your contacts with their first and last name. Save the name, first and last name, of people that you know to your contacts. That will make your life so much easier. As soon as you get a person's number, save it. Don't just start texting and say, well, I remember their number. That is such a dangerous trap. None of us have a perfect memory. The best practice is to just save that number to the person's name in your contacts. Then it's much easier to communicate because if a friend of yours that you love dearly, you've known since you were 10 years old, you're still in contact. They may randomly send you a picture, right? And you say, "Oh, well, I don't have the number saved, so I don't," right? You miss out on something nice. So, just for your best practice sake, please save every phone number to with a first and last name. All right. Just had to say that. Next, we already talked about iMessage. Of course, this is between Apple devices, right? It is super clean. It's easy to use. I'm not a person that uses iPhone myself. As you saw in previous videos, I do have an iPad. I don't have anything against Apple products. I think they're great. And iMessage is one of the best messaging platforms between the two. But remember, the encryption, right? The part that makes the messaging private only works if you are messaging another iPhone user. If you're sending an Android user a text, it's not encrypted. Keep that in mind. Next, Facebook Messenger. Most people have a Facebook account. Whether you're a regular Facebook user or not, you probably have a Facebook account, which means you can use Facebook Messenger. uh, it's very convenient as a result, right? It's super convenient to use Facebook Messenger. A lot of you are probably connected with your friends. I know my high school, we have like a high school graduating class that's on Facebook. So we have like a group chat of all of us in there, which is nice. But it can get really, really messy because you receive a lot of messages. There are so many scams. I even put here too many scams, right? There's too many spam accounts. And we've talked about like how people in our social media video, if you have not watched our video on social media, please go to the YouTube page and view that because there are so many scams that are based on people with fake accounts, right? There are so many fake accounts on Facebook. So you have to be so careful. The best way to do it is to just stick to people you know in real life. Don't follow celebrities, don't follow politicians, none of that stuff. Just with people that you know in real life. That is the easiest way to stay safe when you're using Facebook Messenger. Next is Telegram. I love Telegram as well. It's very easy to use and set up. It actually is connected to your phone number. So in that way, it's a little more convenient because you don't have to make a special account. It just connects to your phone number, and now you can use that as your identifier on there. It's really nice. However, it has limitations. Here are the limitations of Telegram. Number one is it's only encrypted if you turn on secret chats, right? So if you don't have secret chats turned on and you're messaging someone, just like we talked about, someone could kind of snipe in there and read your messages. And it is an extremely anonymous platform. As the person has a phone number, it's not going to ask for their name. It's not going to ask them to prove who they are through an email address, right? So it's easy to set up, but because of that, the scammers love it, right? They can just put anyone's picture on there and then it looks like, oh, this is some celebrity that you like, right? It's Wayne Brady or whatever. Like, and Wayne Brady, please don't sue me. You're just someone that everyone likes. But because of the anonymity or the fact that you don't have to prove who you are, because of that, it attracts a lot of scammers. So you have to be careful on Telegram, but it's so easy to set up. A lot of people really love it. Last but not least, if we're talking about security, and privacy when it comes to messaging, Signal is by far number one. It has no ads. They don't collect any information about you, which is awesome. So if you're really concerned about that sort of thing, as far as like privacy, you don't want people to be able to know what you're doing or what you're saying, right? For whatever reason. Not that you're doing something, shady, but just that you want control over your information. Signal is the best. It is by far the best when it comes to privacy. And you've got full control. So those are the major messaging app platforms, right? Of course, there are others. There are plenty of others. I would probably be talking to you for hours and hours if we really tried to cover every single one of them. We're not going to talk for hours and hours. We're going to keep it simple. Those are the big ones. You've got the tips on which ones are great and why, what to look out for. Let's just do a quick, just cut through all the noise. The bottom line is this. Number one, only message people you know. Don't waste your time trying to send messages to strangers. Just talk to the people that you know. That's the only way to really stay safe. Next, don't click the random links. If you get a random message, It's like the old ads from the 80s, just say no, right? Just say no. If someone that you don't know messages you and they're being extremely urgent and they're insisting on you sending them some money, but they're saying that they're someone that you know, be very suspicious. Be very, very cautious if people are being rushed and insisting on you helping them or giving them money, right? And they're saying that they're a family member using another number. And of course, it's important to learn your settings, right? On any app, right? We talked about in our episode on how your privacy works is it's all about permissions, right? It's all about permissions. So when you download the app, you give that device or you give your app a set of permissions, right? Your microphone, the camera, knowing who your contacts are, etc. You need to know the settings and the permissions that you are granting that app so that you can stay safe. If you're confused or worried about how to do that, don't worry. Again, that's why I'm your son in tech. Just hop on the website, getfriendly.help, and set up a one-on-one time. I can go through it with you. In fact, not just for one of your apps, but we can go through your whole phone and I'll walk you through the process of, okay, here's what to look for. Do you want this permission? Yes or no? And then we just go from there. It's very, very simple. Again, it doesn't take very long, but I'm going to hold your hand all the way through it. You don't have to figure it out. So there's the bottom line, right? We're just going to keep it simple. This kind of thing is exactly what I love to do in one-on-one sessions is make sure that you understand what's going on, but also keep you safe, right? That's the most important thing is to keep you safe. And now you've got the tips. If anything was confusing, just start the video over. Watch it again, pause it. You don't have to rush through it. And again, if you need personal help, getfriendly.help. Go to the web browser, type that in, set up a time. I'm here to help you. And I'm looking forward to sharing more information with you later this week. We've got another very, very exciting topic, which, should I spoil it? Should I spoil our next topic? Our next topic is going to be Bluetooth devices. So there you have it. We're going to talk about Bluetooth and how to set it up, how to use it, and of course, again, most importantly, how to stay safe, right? How to stay safe. Until then, really appreciate you. Thanks for the support. Thanks for watching the videos. Please, if you haven't already, like this video, subscribe to our channel, hit that bell so you get notifications anytime we go live or we post shorts or if we post medium length content. We appreciate all the support. I am looking forward to seeing you next time. Until then, keep closing that digital divide.